He was with Mr. Harry Hart at his office on Main Street on November the 16th, 2005. Mr. Hart is a longtime resident of Mooresville, and first I'm going to show you some of the things that he has here in his office. First, behind him is a clock, a wall map, and then on the wall is the time clock. This is where the people would sign in when they came to work. This is the time clock. Moving along the wall is another map. Notice in Mr. Hart's window he has a sprig of cotton because he was a cotton broker. Then over on the wall over here is a safe. This is definitely a very old safe, and we hope Mr. Hart will tell us all about it in his interview. Now we're going to hear our interview with Mr. Hart.
Well, Harry, I call you Harry because I've known you Harry all my life that I've been in Mooresville. We certainly do appreciate being able to come and hear all about these different things. One being this nice desk. I understand it was made by the Mooresville Furniture Company. Can you tell us about this desk?
Well, yes, we purchased this desk from Mooresville Furniture Company. They had a plant right up the street from us, a furniture plant. They made different furniture, and it's a huge desk that it's a double desk actually. It's accumulates a lot of things now that probably not very conducive to business, but you actually got like the clock. The clock is a time clock. It was a Dynasty Farmers Warehouse automobile, which we used for a watchman. This fellow by the name of Bell, Dr. Bell's brother. He was crippled, had this deformed arm. Well, he was a night watchman, and as he went from, we had keys at different location doors and so forth around the plant that he was supposed to turn with, and then it would record on his clock. And also the employees had a card. They punched a card when they came in and when they went out. And these pictures on the wall here by that clock are like the cotton gins. They bought cotton and had cotton. Piled it out like that, bales, and that's where I had to go to buy cotton a lot of times, down in South Carolina and Georgia too. And the other one over there is an old picture of how they went to the gym. They had wagons, and this gym we had down here on Broad Street was the main gin in this town, and they gin quite a bit of cotton. Cotton was king when I was a youngster and came out of school. I went to North Carolina State College. I was over there a while. And that was during the Depression days, the 30s, 1931, 2, 3, and 4 there. At the college in those days, it cost $378 a year, including board, room, and tuition and all. That's quite different today. We had about 1,100 students there. I thought that was a mammoth school. I understand they have about 28 to 30,000 students today. But I was in the midst of the Depression, so I went into business with my uncle, Steve. I was a general fluffy, I might say, around the classing table, and it was a fascinating game because we had about half a dozen buyers from different locations, one out of Charlotte and Concord, Vic Means, and let's see, Debbie Rankin Company had a mortgage on about a third of the farmers around here, so they bought the cotton too, but cotton was king. So 52% of the people in America were involved in some kind of agriculture, and the school was after leaving State College, I was full-time employee and a partnership in a short while. When I went into the service, I was still a partner, and he passed away during the time I was in service over in Germany. So I came back and I started up the business again. And I purchased the Farmers Warehouse and Oil Mill stock. It was a corporation at that time owned by some of the farmers that was in pretty bad shape financially. And I purchased it primarily to get the warehouse down Conroe Broad and Ireland Avenue. And the cotton gin too. And it was an oil mill. At one time they crushed cottonseed, and the byproducts of cottonseed, well, the cottonseed oil was the main product. And then the meal was converted into cattle feed and so forth. That it was a little industry that it was all formed in, I think, 1913, and today it's used for warehousing, primarily the buildings.
So in your process, you would buy the cotton?
Well, you called me a cotton broker. I was not a broker, I was a merchant. We bought cotton and sold to the textile mills. And I bought from other gins and locations. And the city of Mooresville rented a portion of that warehouse to encourage customers to come here and sell their cotton. It brought a lot of cotton. Was the primary commodity that you could bring to the market and get money any day of the year. So it was not like grain and other commodities that, but you could keep it for some time. And therefore, we had a public cotton wearer. He was elected. He was an elected office. And he was a weigher. He weighed cotton. He got 15 cents a bale for weighing cotton. And Mr. John Houston, owner of Houston Fowler, was last appointed, elected weigher. And the town did away with it. They leased a portion of the warehouse. And that was, it did stimulate a market. You had a lot of people from other areas brought cotton here to sell it.
Well, then did you ship it on the railroad to various places?
No, we had trucks.
You had trucks at the time.
We trucked it, and that's when I had to buy cotton other places. I went down in South Carolina, Lower Park, and down in Georgia. And when we would truck it, cotton in here to the warehouses. And we had two warehouses back on this rail siding back of me that was used to store cotton. And since cotton, when mechanical harvesting came in the picture, cotton more or less left us. It did leave this area and went to the flatland. And excuse me. So today we have only one fellow growing cotton in this area, and that's over in Rowan County. Steve Campbell, he has 300 acres of cotton. Two men produce that cotton.
They do everything.
Therefore, he's eliminated so much labor. It used to be one man and 5 acres of cotton, one mule and 5 acres. And you usually got large families that own tenants, farmers that could pick a bale of cotton in a day, maybe.
And how much would they get for that cotton then? How much
when I first started buying cotton, it was worth about 8.5 to 9 cents a pound. And the government, the Commodity Credit Corporation, which is a form of government, started making loans on cotton. And I went to a cotton classing school and got qualified as a federal license. Cotton had to be classed and weighed with a warehouse negotiable receipt to obtain that loan. So I got 50 cents a bale for classing the cotton, and I was a notary, and I got 25 cents a bale for that. So I was doing right well. I made 75 cents on each bale that went into the government loan. So that was an inducement to get into that field. And then we stored the cotton, and we got 50 cents a bale per month on storage for all the cotton. So, and then we had an opportunity to buy the cotton if the market went up, which it usually did go up enough to bring some of it out of the Commodity Credit Corporation. That was my experience starting. But as cotton started leaving this area, I had to go farther out to buy cotton, supply the mail demand. Mooresville down here was a good outlet for us for quite some time. We sold about half the cotton that they consumed. and that was close by. The only thing, they were in bad shape financially. We'd ship cotton down there, they'd consume it and pay us Tuesdays. That's when they got their money from New York. They were, and so they just bought from week to week. They had no capital. So, but Burlington took it over, and it was quite different then after that. Let's see, that's about enough. I can tell you, that's about enough on cotton.
Okay, can you tell your experience there?
I had, at North Carolina State College, we mandatory ROTC for except conscientious objectors, which were few. Davidson and other schools around had ROTC. So I got a commission after I finished the ROTC program as a second lieutenant. And I kept up my reserve commission, and I was the first lieutenant in 1941 when I got orders from the War Department. They call it the Department of Defense today, but it was back then it was known as War Department. You will proceed without delay to Fort Benning, Georgia, reporting on arrival to the commanding officer of the 2nd Armored Division, and that was George S. Patton, and known as Old Blood and Guts. He was quite a character, and he commanded this division for about a year or so, and then he was promoted and left the 2nd Armored Division. But I got my first training when I went to the 2nd Armored Division. About 85% of them were West Pointers, and we had a few reserves sprinkled in. That it was a wonderful adventure, and he was John Patton was a wonderful leader in a way. He used a lot of profanity, and the news media liked to follow him because he was always saying things he would regret. And Mrs. Patton, his wife, followed him usually on most locations, and she was a wealthy lady, heir to the Colgate Palmolive people, and had a lot of money, and she built a rustic officers club down at Fort Benning for the 2nd Armored Division, and it was still in use when I was there a few years ago. But we went on, had what we known as the Carolina maneuvers and the Louisiana maneuvers and the bayous. It was an armored division consisting of tanks, and Pat was kind of the pioneer in the tank field. And, we were called to active duty, and we had this training. Then we went to we were ordered to Europe, to England, and we were involved in the invasion I commanded a unit that went in on an LST. I had about 24 tanks and about 60-some wheeled vehicles. We landed on Omaha Beach, D+3. That's the third day. So we had some of the first tanks that were going into Europe on Normandy. And that was, went on high tide, and they revved it up and hit that beach as hard as it could go. And it was, and in a short while, the front portion of it was on sand. The tide was going down. We went in high tide. And we had very little problem, except we had to climb this embankment. It's about a 45-degree slope. It was soft sand, and a lot of the tanks were marred down. We had to use cables to pull them out and so forth. But we got up there in a little while. They were all waterproof to pull about 8 foot of water. But he didn't have to use that, because at high tide that thing fluctuates about 10 feet. And we went in on high, and that vessel stays there till the tide comes back in so it can come out. Well, I don't know whether you want to hear about some of the adventures that we had in Europe.
Interesting. I think it was very interesting.
Well, we first, if we went into the beach, we known as Axis Sally. She was a propaganda radio announcer for Germany. She says, "Now here comes that 2nd Armored Division, hell on wheels." That was the motto on it. We had everything obliterated, high secret, nothing. But she made the announcement who we were the day we came in. And all the secret stuff that we had, we obliterated all the markings on vehicles. And as soon as we got in, all the officers had a white vertical mark on the back of the helmet. And if we got into that forest, the Risi there, right off the beach that way, they had snipers up, and these Germans had snipers in that forest way up in the trees that camouflaged perfectly. And they were picking off officers. So we got rid of that vertical white mark on our helmet right soon. We had quite an engagement there. We were in a holding area, so we built up more troops coming in behind so we could break out. And we broke out of that, and we were trying to get to Cherbourg port so we could bring fuel and so forth in there in volume. But we had 5-gallon cans with fuel. That's the way they brought it on the beach. And but after we went through there, we had to capture St. Lo. It was kind of a hub, a road net. All the main roads led into St. Lo that went into the peninsula, Cherbourg. But we captured that and closed off and captured a lot of German troops and got that port. And we were in good shape then for bringing in heavy stuff, equipment. And the logistics were almost perfect. It was about as good as we could ever expect that we had. We had adequate supplies of fuel, ammo, and new tanks. We'd lose a tank, could have a new one and just place the next day. But we usually, if you lost a tank, you'd have about 1.5 casualties. Tanks burn easily. You wouldn't think so, but they have heavy, a lot of supply, 360 gallons of high-octane gasoline. Everything was gasoline, and one fuel operated everything we had. Therefore, and they carried about 76 rounds of ammo, plus a lot of small arms stuff, 30 caliber and so forth, machine gun. And that stuff was highly explosive. Once they got a penetration on that tank, they usually blazed up and fire through flames 100 feet in the air. And we'd lose about 1.5 men every time you got a tank knocked out. And that was, I had a total of, well, I was second in command. I was a major at the time. Colonel Beale commanded the battalion. And about the last 4 or 5 months, I commanded the battalion. He was promoted up, but I came out as a lieutenant colonel. And I had 49 killed and 276 wounded out of my unit. That's about 675 enlisted men and 39 officers is a battalion. And of course, our objective was Berlin. Everybody wanted Berlin. Well, we got the last day of the drive, we made about 70 miles. That's a tremendous travel, big heavy tanks. And we stopped on the Elbe River, and we were told to stay there. The secret agreement had been made with Stalin, with FDR, not Churchill. He wanted a special meeting at Yalta with FDR, and therefore we would, he made a verbal agreement that he would help us in the Pacific theater if he let him take Berlin. So that's not in the history books, but that's what the story goes. And then we were chosen as for the Potsdam Conference. That was to ratify the agreements and so forth. And Roosevelt died about it this time, and Harry Truman took over and we had Jimmy Burns from Spartanburg down here as the Secretary of State. Neither of them knew anything about the secret agreement that he had with Stalin. Roosevelt had with Stalin. So we were chosen to represent the American forces in Berlin. And I went over with the advance party the day Berlin fell with my S2 staff officer. His name was Roskovich. He spoke Russian fluently. So I said, we'll go over and select quarters for our troops. I want to put them in a place of comfort because we've been living pretty rough. So anyway, we went in that day, and I wanted to go to the Reichstag. That's equivalent to our Pentagon, where Hitler's headquarters and his office was in there. They had a ring of guards around it. Nobody could go in. But there were 2 Russian generals over there, and I said, Roskovich, let's go over there and talk to the general and see if we can get in here. I want to go in. And so we went over and said, he asked the generals, they says, yeah, we want to go in there too. He told us guards, step aside. So we walked right on through and walked right into Hitler's office. And I got quite a few mementos. I got his signature on the document and some of his calling cards. And then the medal, the room next to it was where they had all these different medals that they on the German soldiers, because they were great on those. So I got a box of those things. And the headquarters there took one whole block there of apartment buildings from the troops that we stayed in there. We stayed about 6 weeks, it says. And at the Potsdam conference, that's where I saw all the dignitaries more. And we were lined up on the Autobahn they went past interview and rode by in military vehicles. And let's see, we had Harry Truman and his daughter, and Sir Winston, let's see, he and his daughters, I believe. And Ike and Mamie, Eisenhower, the Marshal Zukov, Joseph Stalin, all of those, Harry Truman. Let's see, we had all those dignitaries pass in review. That's the most powerful leaders, I guess, of the nation world at that time. So that's about the end of it. I came home, I went back into the cotton business, but that's about the end of that story.
Well, I think it's so interesting that you have had all these experiences, and I think for the record, you married a local girl from out in the Prospect community, Mildred Lawrence.
Oh, yes.
And you might want to tell us about her and your children. I think that's of interest to everybody.
You want me to tell about that?
Just a little bit about Mildred, where she was from, you know, and her.
Mildred came back, and I was single, and I was in the market, I might say, for a mate. So Mildred came home from Washington. She had been up there in that intelligence unit. They were trying to break a Japanese code, and she had a right good job. She was an instructor, I believe, and but her job was over, so she appealed to me, and we met at a church meeting, and I says, I'd like to take you home. And so things started popping pretty fast, and we were married, and had 4 lovely children, 2 sons and 2 daughters. Mildred was called. She had a cancerous growth, and I lost her in 1996, I believe. Anyway, and then I was lonely.
That's
not it, right? I was lonely then for a number of years, about 8 years, I believe. And I met this lady at knew through my farm agent. She was assistant. Oh yeah, my present lady. I met through the county agent in Rowan County, Roe McNeely. I don't know how many of you knew him. He was the agent over there, and my wife was his secretary. And we met again. I'd known her just casually, but I met her later, and her husband passed, and we went together, and we had finally made it, and I'm happily married. We had our second anniversary just recently, and my children sent us up to Grove Park Inn for a couple of days. That's where we went on a honeymoon. So they sent us up for the anniversary, and that's about as far as I want to go.
One thing that we have not talked about is your back door. And as I sit here in your office and look out, I can see quite, and I understand this was John Moore's home place.
Yeah.
And that how he could look out, sit on his front porch and look down the road and see the customers that would come into his store.
That's right. He can tell when he had a customer, and he can, on his front porch, and the house set back just a little ways from his office. And there's an old well, I guess the source of water was right back here. And when we built this office in 1936, I believe it was, and Steve wanted to preserve that front door out of the house, so we used it in the back door here, in the back door of this office, and that door is available for the Historical Society if you can use it.
Thank you so much.
And the proposition I made Al Jones, the mayor here, was just put me another door in, you can have it any time. So he says, I'll do it. But he never did do it.
Maybe he will now.
He might do it unless, if y'all approach him right now.
Yes, we'll try to.
You see.
Well, we didn't talk about your safe. This is another thing that we didn't mention, because I believe you scanned it. Yes. It's a real old safe, and of course it has the name of your business up here.
That was the name of the Farmer's Warehouse and Oil Mill. Well, I'll tell you, I had about 3 businesses I'm trying to. At the Arnold Bonded warehouses, we issued warehouse receipts, and that was another. And the S.A. Hart and Company cotton merchant safe over there I used. That's where their records were kept. So,
well, you have had an interesting life.
Well, I've had a full life. I'm 92 years old today. I mean, I was October 31. I was 92, and I was reared on the farm, and I enjoyed farm life, and I enjoyed the Depression. It was a wonderful experience. Everybody was poor, and we had a hard life, but it was a good life. I think it's a wonderful life, probably for some of our youngest children today.
Well, we appreciate this so much, and I can't thank you enough for the museum.
Well, you're quite welcome. My whole
sharing all your memories.
If you see that little map over there, that is a silk map, a scape map that I wore on the inside of a jacket. France, and that's back in those days. We had what was known as escape routes in case you were captured, and
you wore that inside your...
I folded up it was real small, and it folded inside my jacket.
Inside your jacket.
On the lining. So you asked me about John. You see this thing here?
Yes. Now John is one of his youngest child.
The youngest son. That's the Appalachian Trail.
Yes.
And I furnished him with maps and took care of him while he was in that, on that 5 months and 23 days.
Oh my. And he walked the whole distance. Walked the whole distance.
Yeah, let me get this.
Yeah. They are
Mr.
pretty.
Hart wants to make sure we take a picture of these pretty bird dogs up here. He's a quail hunter. 4. Trying to move. This is why it's called a double desk, because you can see that it is actually twice the depth of an ordinary desk.